everybody, and welcome to Mas Naigan Isqueo, also known as Book Women. I'm Kayla, and I am here with my fellow comrades.
I'm Tanya.
And I'm Sheila.
And we're here today with Paul. Do you feel special?
I do feel special. I'm actually, it's all embarrassing and wonderful. It's really fun.
All right, we're here with Paul Gareau, who's at the Faculty of Native Studies. I'm just going to let you introduce yourself.
Cool.
The first question.
Sure.
Who are you?
Who are you? Who are you?
That's
my name
so,
is...
existential.
I know, exactly.
Who are you?
What would be your Tinder profile? That's what someone asked me the other day. And I'd be like, bearded, overweight, Métis. You know, it's like, yeah, baby.
Would you put something cool? But I feel like you'd also have to put something cool, extra cool. Like you're the whatever descendant of Cuthbert.
Oh, yeah, I'm the 18th
Grant.
descendant of Cuthbert Grant's uncle.
You
or
just
something.
gotta throw that in there.
Yeah.
Cuthbert Grant's wife's
Just so that
cousin.
people know, like, your lineage. Just in case.
Exactly.
How Métis you are.
Exactly. I can out Métis anybody.
On that note,
until they see a photo of me, and then they're like,
Ugh, doesn't look at all like Cuthbert Grant. He looks charming. My name is Paul Gareau. I'm an assistant professor in Native Studies, faculty of Native Studies at the University of Alberta. I'm also part of the Métis Studies sector, I guess, of our faculty, which is really exciting and fun. It's like this nascent part of our faculty specialization. Really exciting stuff that we're doing together. And I'm Métis from Batoche area, Bellevue area. So this little French village near Batoche named Bellevue.
I know what that is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
I totally
we
know
got
what that is.
total Duck Lake Bellevue triad.
Yeah, totally.
Triad. It's like some sort
Triad,
of
yeah.
some sort of gang.
It's a gang, I would say. It's a militia, like, alliance.
Yeah.
Familial connection.
Some gunfights went down
Yeah, exactly.
in important times, yeah.
Yeah, the original drive-by shootings.
How do our
Anyways.
conversations always end up with violence?
But I feel like we also did come into the conversation today with violence and talking about the original drive-by shooting
Yeah.
with Cuthbert Grant and the Selkirk settlers.
That's right, baby.
There you go.
1817,
Yeah.
1815, 17.
Super old school.
That's right.
Okay,
mean,
so you're a professor at the Faculty of Native Studies.
Yeah. Oh, and I teach a research course that I kind of inherited from Dr. Frank Tuff, which is really fantastic. I kind of slipped into it really well because it's a research course called NS Native Studies 290, and then which is a secondary sources research course, and then his other course 390, which is like a primary data research course. And they're both awesome. I've taught the 390 once and 290 3 times, and I've been totally integrated into the library here by all the libraries. Fun friends.
Welcome.
Yeah, I know. Really, like it's. Yeah. Us. And I'm like, I don't know how to read a book. You know, it's like I don't even know what a Dewey
I
Decimal
swear
is.
it's one of those things. We have these big bureaucratic meetings and we're like, we have to have a community member.
Yeah.
Who do we have? And I'm just like, we need Paul. It's like the Paul signal needs to go
That's
up.
right.
We're just gonna wave.
What would that look like?
Like be a
shadow of a
infinity
man with
symbol
a
like
beard.
across campus, and you're just
Yeah.
gonna come running across
Hello.
the quad.
I was waiting for this. This whole time. It's true. And then that's why I just show up to library stuff that's on my agenda. It's like, bleep, my phone rings, and I'm like, oh, gotta go to the next meeting. Then I show up, I'm like, what's going on here? Oh, yeah. And then I catch up to whatever you guys are doing. So, because I don't say no at all to the libraries.
Oh.
Because of this course, right?
Yeah.
So, and this course is like, the way I see it is that I'm not an expert in library studies, but as a mature student, I really, really benefited from a research course like this. So for me, it's always that I'm that space between students and libraries of like, yeah, I know exactly what it feels like not to be able to read a book or to organize yourself. So it's like, do it piecemeal and do it together. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I TA'd that course when
Yeah.
I was in my Native Studies degree because Dr. Tuff was also my supervisor for my honors paper. But I TA'd that class, and that is a hell of a class.
Yeah.
That is a class that even to this day, I warn students, it is intense, but it is probably going to be one of the most useful classes that you've ever taken in your degree.
And students come to me and they're like, that was the best class I've taken my whole degree. And I can't believe it because I'm like, really? It's a research course. You don't even get into the content of Native studies topics or anything, right? So, yeah, I'm really impressed by it. And I'm not as rigorous as Frank is, because he had a huge workload, right? And I'm paring things down a lot. So I don't know if it's losing some of its veracity or something. I'm not sure what. I try to honor Frank as much as I always have like a little footnote saying like this is Frank's class.
Yeah.
And I think like for as long as I teach it, it'll
Yeah.
be Frank's class.
Well, you're not like an academic sadist. You're just
Yes,
like,
I guess
sitting
you
there.
said that.
I remember taking it as a student, and to this day, I will never forget, because you have to sign off on your research topic, and you give like topic of your last paper that you're going to write at the beginning, so you can develop a thesis statement.
Yeah, that's what I do too. Yeah.
Yeah, so I handed mine in and to Frank and the TA, and I said, I want to research Indigenous people in post-secondary institutions in a historical context. Kind of set a date of pre-1970s. And Frank was like, yep, signed off. And
That
so
sounds like a PhD, like a dissertation.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of primary data.
Also,
Yeah.
I was walking down the hallway and I was just happening to talk to another professor in Native Studies.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, what's your topic? So I told them, and they're like, you know that's not really a thing. And I was like, what? I went to Frank, this isn't a thing? And he's like, well, I'll see what you can find. He's like, I have faith. I was like,
Oh boy.
Frank's faith. Imagine.
it was not a thing at all. I was like so stuck.
Yeah.
It sent me down this like wild goose chase at the U of A archive trying to figure out because
man.
somebody told me a story about an Indigenous person that was brought here in 1914 from a residential school by a priest to prove that Indigenous people could be smart. But this literally sent me on this giant hunt at the U of A archives, and I still have never found this document.
Holy.
Wow.
He's under someone's desk somewhere, collecting dust.
For sure.
Or
Or like in the walls, you know?
being used by mice. Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows?
So that's what Frank did. Well, students are really dedicated to Frank because
They
of
are.
that. Because of his frankness and his toughness, right? So
Oh, perfect.
pretty much, yeah, I know. It's a
His
perfect name
name's
for
fine.
him. Yeah. Students love him after like, oh, you know.
I have a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah,
Many years
absolutely.
later for Frank.
Yeah.
I always say I have two academic dads in my life, Frank and Paul.
Really?
And we both got 290s, so there must be like a theme.
There must be some. I gotta get a U of A academic dad, like for like library's dad or something.
Yeah, totally.
I felt really touched by that when you guys told me that last year. I was like, what? It's because I look like an old dad, you know? Like, I don't know.
Because you are a dad.
I am a dad, an ineffectual dad. Maybe I'm the ineffectual dad side of like Frank's like toughness, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, whatever, kids, have bacon all night. You
Yeah.
can watch TV all day, no problem.
Yeah.
You will learn your own lesson tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
You're the one
You're
that's like,
cranky.
get up. You're the one that's like, I know that you can do this. You just need to apply yourself. I
Yeah.
feel like you don't get the same sentiment out of Frank. But he was the one that pushed me into library. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He's
He
your-
told me I'd make a horrible lawyer and a great librarian.
Oh, thank God someone told you that.
Yeah, thank God. Native Studies did not
Sorry.
pump out another lawyer. They
Another
pumped out a
lawyer.
librarian.
Holy,
So, yeah.
so many lawyers. Holy,
There are
They're
so
great
many lawyers.
on the record.
That's true.
But we
On
need
the
more
record.
different kind of people, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
So on the record, so our podcast is about writing, editing, and publishing Indigenous stories. And I was hoping, Paul, that you could share a little bit of insight into your publishing experience or like writing experience or whatever it is that you want to talk about. I guess.
Yes, well, I've done a lot of academic writing. So I wrote my thesis, dissertation, well, I have two thesis dissertations, but I finished mine in 2015 and defended in 2016. And then from that dissertation, so it was a dissertation in religious studies, and I was wanted to work with a professor from U of O on diversity, religion diversity. So I ended up doing something that was close to home as a PhD. It's just like, so I did it on evangelical Catholic youth, right? So from that, I drew out 3 chapters or articles from that dissertation. And now 3 or 4, and now it's done. So that's put to rest. And now I'm focusing on Lac-Saint-Anne research that I'm doing in the last 2 years. And I'm publishing 2 things right now. Chapter in this new book on like sort of cutting edge Métis studies ideas. All this interdisciplinary stuff focusing on Métis studies. Really cool book. It's going to come out maybe next year with UBC. So mine is on religion, so the Métis experience of religion. And then I'm doing another thing with the United Church. So the United Church of Canada, which is really fun, rainbows, really good rainbows, Christian rainbows and LGBTQ, fun, happy rainbows, so
Wow.
together.
My mom went to United Church, so I'm
Yeah, I know.
The look on your face, just like, oh.
So I was asked to come to St. Andrew's College like last year or two.
Okay.
They got a little bit of money, so they invited 4 Indigenous scholars and 4 of their scholars, and I was the only Métis Catholic person there. They're all talking about UNDRIP and how the United Church operationalized UNDRIP as part of their engagement with TRC. So I was like, okay, well, if we're going to talk about religion, in UNDRIP, we talk about land and sovereignty, right? So I was talking about pilgrimage as a site of land-based sovereignty for Métis. And I just had this blowout chapter that took 12 months to pare down to this magical, to get that centrality, So, and now I just finished that. So we're editing it together for a prospectus, because I'm an editor now on this thing. Just put the gun to my head, and then we'll see. So much stuff, so much work, but it's really great. So I'm doing that. So that's where I'm at now. Now, me and Tanya and more people, we're doing research on Lac St. Anne. We've got a big shirt grant, and we're looking at doing all sorts of various research that'll publish something. So that's the future. That's the next step right now.
So what's the difference for you between being or having a role as an editor and being the author?
The author is a lot less work.
I can see that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because I edited a volume that just came out this year from a conference we did in 2014 in Ottawa.
Wow.
So,
this year?
Just this year. It just came out this year. Because things get lost. And then we had to ask the guy who's like the big guy in our group, Peter Beyer, was like, could you email Brill and tell him what's up? And they were like, oh, sorry, Mr. Beyer. Like, yeah, whatever. So lots of stoppages. It's just a long process. And being an editor, you have to have your hands in everything. And everything comes back to you. But it's just a process of who has what and how do you work together. And that you've got like a separate division of labor. So my friend and I, he's in Calgary now. We constantly worked on Google Docs, which was the time that it came out, and we just sit there together with our laptops touching and like through the cloud, which goes to the Philippines or I don't know where. Just the technology really helps us work together to make sure that the intro looks good, the conclusion looks great, but it's a long labor. Whereas and then we wrote chapters in them.
Yeah.
But just writing as an author, it's like so much easier. Just like, here you go. You deal with the publisher. You deal with like the readers.
You fix it. Make me sound smart.
Oh God, yeah. You deal with the readers. So like the peer reviews that come back to you. I got a peer review for a book that just came out. One was like, "This is the best chapter in the whole edited volume." It's like screaming at me how amazing it is. And the other one's like, "No, it's not so good. It's kind of the shittiest one." And I'm like, "What the hell? How do you deal with this?"
You were number 3.
Yeah, you were number 12 in this like 12 chapter and volume thing. I couldn't believe it. So then you get stuck perseverating about this one peer review, and then then the editors have to, you have to defend, and then they have to defend your book and your chapter and stuff. So it's really weird process.
Have you ever been a peer reviewer?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I have no idea where that went. I did a peer review.
Oh, really?
And it's out in the world. They never contacted me back.
Really? Okay, so I peer reviewed a paper, and they got back to me. Even the editors got back to me several times, being like, "This is what the author did with it. Now it's going."
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like, "Okay."
Oh, wow.
I never got that back for that
Really?
review. Maybe it wasn't for a book. It was for I think it was for a journal article.
Okay.
So that was just like, okay, good. Who knows if they took in your
Yeah.
review and used it? I
Yeah.
have no idea.
How do you feel as a peer reviewer?
Yeah.
Do you feel like a horrible person?
No, I don't like peer review. I don't. It's like I'll do it for like libraries. Like I say yes to anything NASA or anything Indigenous. Like I'll say yes to that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people ask me to do peer review, like in French text as well, because I speak
Right.
French. And I'm like, no, thank you. Like also like media attention, like no, thank you. I don't want to do that unless it's like APTN or anything Indigenous. I'll focus in on that, but it's just so much work for helping, I guess.
Yeah.
Not sure. Yeah.
I feel like my ugly little Métis troll comes out or something. Like when I'm a peer
'cause
reviewer,
you're, like,
I'm
critique
that peer
critical?
reviewer. I'm like,
man.
I'm
I'm
like,
not that reviewer. For me, I'm like, let me help you be a better writer. I'm gonna spend so much time on this, and you're gonna be a better person for
oh no.
it.
Oh, I'm
man.
like where's your citation? This sounds like an assumption.
Oh.
Where's your citation?
That's
person?
good. That's what they need.
Or like
That's
you
what they
can't
need.
generalize
Yeah.
different groups of people across. I'm
Yeah.
I'm the
That's
mean
good.
reviewer,
Yeah.
not like let me help you.
Yeah.
Because I'm also horrible at grammar and spelling, so I don't care about that. I look more at like the content.
Yeah.
So
But then, so in the world, let's say for the world of Métis studies, when you go put like a chapter out, you have to do this huge disclaimer about like who are the assholes who you don't want them to review your stuff.
oh really?
Because it becomes because our field is our topic, our subject is so divided.
Yes.
You know, it was like controlled by old white men, and now it's trying to be lifted up by Métis scholars and students, right? So there's this divide, but there's still a lot of power and control over that old guard, and plus all the Eastern Métis stuff.
Oh man.
That we don't even poke with like
Yeah.
Well,
a Canada-wide. Well, I don't.
Daryl LaRue, like
I don't
he's,
with the
yeah.
Canada-wide poll. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
like-
That's a huge pull.
Good thing you're over there.
Yeah, good
'Cause-
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all think we're like
Damn it.
Louis Riel's like descendants, so who cares, you know?
I actually am. Just saying.
Oh, don't say that. God, now we're back to this whole like
But like,
Cuthbert
so
Grant
you're
thing.
like, oh, I believe Real's descendant. But I once had somebody that was like, I am the whatever grandchild of Louis Riel and he was just like, yep, I am the so many grandchild of Louis Riel.
Really?
None of Louis Riel's kids lived. There cannot be an actual somewhat grandchild.
We're
of
related by
Louis Riel.
cousins.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
you
what you
can
have
do
to
that,
and that's
but you
great.
can't actually write down the line.
It's on
and
the
I was
tree.
just like,
It counts.
Yeah.
I was just like,
bad.
it was so bad though. Like actually sitting at this table with somebody and being like, well, you actually can't be because they died.
Yeah.
And they're like, well,
They
that's
died.
they're like, well, that's the story my family tells. I'm like, well,
Wow.
your family is wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
Yo.
You should just start
Truth,
playing it saying
but-
Like, our
and
family
saying,
for
like
the-
we're all cousins.
well, for the
Yeah.
longest time, our family tried to say we weren't related to Cuthbert Grant, but Ulysses S. Grant, and I was like,
No, it's
but
not
like
it.
we're Métis, so and they're like, yeah, but Ulysses S. Grant. I'm like, no.
Wasn't he some sort of slave trader, that guy?
Well, exactly. Yes. Like,
You're better off with Cuthbert
but I was
Grant.
also like, if anything, he probably did not have these weird Manitoba Métis like offspring.
Not at all.
Like,
Yeah, he's got a mausoleum in New York, you know, like
yeah, but then they're like,
it's
well, you're
pretty crazy.
anti so and so, like in this research, and I'm like, well, obviously it's wrong.
Anti-so-and-so's
Because like
off.
here is actually some solid genealogical research that proves that it's not Ulysses S. Grant and it's
Yeah.
Cuthbert Grant.
Yeah. It's
BT
so
dubs.
yeah. It's so silly when people do that, you know, because then as soon as you say if you are legitimate or whatever, or do have these, like you feel like you can't like actually talk about these kind of things, and like yeah, it just like adds a whole dimension to the stereotype of, oh, Métis are liars, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, but some of us are, you know, like, yeah, it's, I don't know.
Trump, he's a liar.
He is.
That's
There you
true.
go.
At least you guys are lucky too, because one thing that I always have to remind people, because like I present and I am very open about my Indigenous heritage and who I am as a person, but they see my name and it's like Kayla Larson,
Yeah.
and they're like, who is this white chick? And then I always have to remind people, yes, I might look like I'm in my prime. 19-year-old.
Yeah.
But I have been married for several years, so that's where the Larson comes from. And then I even thought about dropping it and going back to my
Yeah.
maiden name just because so many people are confused.
What's your maiden name?
It's House Verbicki
Oh,
because my dad's Ukrainian, my mom's Métis.
sweet. What's your mom's name?
House.
She's a house.
H-O-W-S-E, not the H-O-U-S-Es.
Oh, got it.
She's a house, not a house.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one to remember. Okay.
Yeah. But people get very confused
Yeah.
by
Well,
it.
this, yeah.
They're like, Larson, that's a weird Métis last name. And I'm like, that's
You
because
should
it's
flash a
not
picture of your
mine.
handsome husband and be like, yeah, is
Yeah.
it weird? You'll kick your
Yeah.
ass.
Look at him.
Look at him.
Yeah, he feels quiet. He probably wouldn't
foxy.
even. He just mumble things to them.
He probably just turned beet red.
He would. He'd probably be like, "She can hold her own. Don't worry."
Oh, no, she can't.
Okay, let's loop back, man.
What were we talking
So publishing
about?
is the best thing ever.
Well, you mentioned, Paul, like, about peer review stuff, and
Yep.
I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because you said that Métis Studies is such a small little community, and I'm thinking about the library community and the journal that I peer review for.
Yeah.
So within all of library studies, I would say that it's pretty easy to pinpoint who I am, which is why I try to be nice in my journal reviews because they
Yeah.
know who you are, right?
I
Yeah.
did
Did you ever
review
come
for,
across that?
Yeah, I did
Yes,
review for
definitely.
a library journal, so it was for something else. But my name just got passed down through
Really?
it. Yeah,
Oh,
because it was
weird.
just talking about traditional knowledge, so it wasn't a library journal. It was
Yeah.
something else.
But even through like just a general peer review, so like if anyone doing on the topic, you can tell. This is why it's just like we're like sitting there thinking, who would write this amazing one? Who would write this really weird one? And then like me and Adam were like, well, yeah, let's figure this out, whatever, you know, like so it's kind of like you because
detective work.
exactly not even it's just like family work. It's like okay, who in the village is the real prick, you know, like. You know.
Each village has at least one.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you live on a farm on the outskirts. You just go back to your farm. Just leave it alone. Exactly.
I'm
Yeah,
going
that's
back to
you.
my farm.
The other day when I was like, I was at the library thing. I was like, "Where's Kayla? She must be ski-doing or something."
You know what?
I was dreaming about that.
Snow angel.
Someone made a about the Indigenous Matters, like the committee that we're on, not the Indigenous Matters, the library working group.
Yeah.
Not the Canada library group, but the U of A one. Someone was like, "Oh yeah, we were just talking." I'm like, "That's because I wasn't there to give my 5 cents every 5 minutes."
Oh, that
And
was me. We were talking about that.
Oh, really?
Just because I wasn't there yesterday.
Yeah,
Nothing got done
baby.
because I wasn't there. No.
We were all kind of staring at this thing.
You were all staring at a piece of paper,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, a screen. Which
Oh.
was a piece of paper.
which, yeah,
Exactly.
gross.
So we're gonna have a World Cafe next time. So.
A what?
A World Cafe probably about like different topics. Don't quote me on that.
It's on record.
Oh,
it?
dang.
We
Off the
I
record.
don't understand what
be part of the
cafe is,
podcast.
though. Like,
Huh?
are we just gonna sit around and bring up like a random thing?
Oh, don't worry about it. This is not even. It's a digression. Not
Sip
thing.
coffee and just be like, well, did you read in the newspaper? I feel like we should do
No, I don't even
something
want to get into it.
about this." Okay.
Because I was like tired and confused at the end.
You were
of that
tired and confused.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
sounds like my most days. That's
Yeah.
my day to day.
Yeah.
Tired and confused. Okay, yeah, peer review.
Peer review is weird. Yeah.
But I don't know. If it's such a small community, how can you call it a blind review?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Do you know what I
true.
mean?
But that's with every disciplinary community.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like in history, and I've heard stories of like, yeah, you can't. Everyone just knows each other, and it goes around, and so part of it is good because then you can have people like the way Kayla you were saying, responding to the different mistakes that has been
Yeah.
overlooked by editors. So it's another eye on it. So that, and then another eye on the critique of the content, which an editor can't often get.
Yeah.
So for me, what saved me in writing was having a really good editor. So I have an editor friend who's like a dad, and he's got lots. He has some free time now. He's more. So he was really instrumental in like making sure that the ideas that I put forward were strong. But then the peer review got to the content of what was missing and like the ideas. But again, it really is like living in a village, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't gossip too much, and you know everyone's business nonetheless, right? So you just kind of have to plow along, ask for people's help, put something out there and get it back. Sometimes it's covered in crap, but whatever. You just keep shoveling along. Like
I thought you were going to say keep shoveling the crap.
it is like it's like manure. You just keep shoveling it with 2 hands. You like use both hands.
Just as long as it's not like sand where you shovel up a little bit and then it just
It all
falls
goes
right
back.
in.
Well,
You're
yeah.
like,
Sometimes it's like that. Then you get a backhoe or
Weird
something.
visual with that. Oh, man.
You can get it back. Just like a giant like hydrovac and just like suck it all up like a giant vacuum. Just get
Yeah,
your
exactly.
dice in and just like go at it.
Yeah, that's publishing. That's writing and publishing.
Yeah.
Break a very expensive machine over crap. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, that's life.
Okay, so I guess the other question that I have for you, Paul, is you said that you peer review different journals and you've put in your work to other journals, but I guess how do you choose which one what to say yes to and what not to say yes to? Is it based on the Indigenous community, or is it based on relationships? How do you make those decisions on where to publish your stuff?
So,
Sir, I totally could have articulated that way nicer.
Because for me, it's like I strongly believe in serendipity, right? So as a professor, third year in, I could pick and choose, and I'm choosing to focus on Indigenous scholarship. Jennifer Adiza pointed that out to me. She's like, I only use Indigenous scholars in her reading and her writing. Like, that's where she puts all of her focus on. And the literature review kind of informs whatever, but really what she wants to do is like raise up Indigenous scholarship and scholars. And I'm like, absolutely, this stuff is exciting. This is the most applicable knowledge to what I want to do with it. But the writing that I've done so far has been all based on relationships. So because I was the student of a professor who had a huge SSHRC grant, she had a huge team of colleagues and researchers across the globe. So when they were looking at topics, they kind of knew where I was positioned. So they were like, okay, so out of my thesis, I wrote 4 chapters. So the first one was like with the University of Montreal professor who was doing a special journal on Catholicism in the new Catholicism, whatever, on the globe. So she asked me to write a chapter for that. So I took a piece of my literature, my research, and put to that. Another one was something about like religion diversity topics. So she asked for that. It was a different part of the thesis, so I was able to like split it up into that one. And then there's this edited volume that we did where it's like I had a chapter in there. So I was asked, and then I created my own things. And then for the journal article that I wrote so this is all post-grad or at the same time, because it's always finish your thesis. But before I graduated from university, I just wanted to write one article to get that out there. I know people produce way more depending on the discipline, but in religious studies, it's hard to find a good topic. It's kind of like you publish less, because you're not doing things collectively, whatever. So I just did one in French on a safe bet of an academic journal that I knew people in.
Yeah.
So just to get something out there. So I wrote an article in French, and it got published. Then it was like a good baseline to keep doing this work, because you need primary data to respond to. So the PhD gave me primary data to work with. So it's kind of like finding people and telling people what you're interested in. They link to you if it happens, and sometimes it doesn't. But then you just kind of create your own opportunities.
Yeah.
And try to go for safe bets sometimes. So like I've never been, never been rejected yet. But I'm not producing crap either. I'm happy with what I produce. It's not the best. Who knows, right?
Except for that one review.
I think it's pretty good.
Except for that one review. That review was really weird because it was all like, oh, I don't even want to talk about it. It was just so, because who knows where this will go and it'll end up there. But it was just like a funny review. Like, okay, so you create your own things, but this review, I guess I'm stuck on this review because it was almost like a personal attack, So this is what it's a kind of, but they know the system, and people become a little bit defensive about their students or whatever.
Yeah.
So peer review can cut that way as well, which is unfortunate, right? But I guess you have to take it. So what I did was I took it in, and me and one of my colleagues here, we talk about it, and we're going to talk about it again. But I essentially I took what was good from that review, and I defended my position. They were trying to tell me, this has already been done, but in a way, so why don't you get more primary data and talk about it? Whereas I wanted to just settle and do a theoretical discussion so that we could talk about Métis studies. So Métis people looking at religion can use this framework to start doing their own work, So it's like setting up a theoretical premise for people to use. So I'm not going to put in primary data into that. It's a theoretical discussion of religious studies and Métis studies.
So it sounds like most of your publishing has been very academic focused.
Very
but
academic.
would you ever take that very academic content and then publish it in a way that's not part of the traditional publishing? Like, would you ever do a blog or turn it into a podcast or something else?
So for me, I've been this is very good.
She's giving us the looks, the stink eye.
questioning.
So this is all the sausage is made? Oh, no.
It might look like I'm giving everyone the stink eye, but I just took my glasses off. So
you're just like-
I can't see
Yeah.
right now.
That's good.
I'm not giving the stink eye. I'm literally just like everyone's
Trying to
blurred.
see?
Yeah.
Just trying to see. I've only done those opportunities, or like it's kind of like raised that way. How do you say trained this way? And because it's so involved, it takes like 5 years to edit a book or whatever. It's so involved that, and because I'm fresh out of my degree, I've had no time to do anything else. I'm hoping that this research that I got will spin out into more collaborative, more arts-based research that is meaningful to me and to the people around me, so that I don't continue doing that student exercise, academic writing. So I used to do creative writing. I loved it. I thought it was a fun writer, but it just became this training. It just swept into the graduate program of writing. And for me, like, writing is a challenge, a constant challenge of being able to organize my thoughts and bring in proper evidence and proper analysis. Even now, like, after how many freaking years I've been writing for, how many millions of words have I written so far? I have no idea. But every time it's still like a challenge. Even teaching this course is challenging myself to figure out what is the best thing for the students and best thing for me, you know?
Yeah. Because you like creative writing, if you were to kind of switch gears and write something more creative, like a book,
Yeah.
a fiction book or like a kid's book, what would it be about?
I wouldn't even
I've
know.
never even like heard of you talking about creative writing.
Yeah.
So I'm just like,
I would love to see a kid's book that you make. That would be amazing.
Be a true academic dad.
Yeah, exactly.
oh my god, please write us a children's book.
I wouldn't even know. So because I must say, I'm also ADHD and all these undiagnosed like learning disabilities with me, and growing up on a farm in the middle of nothingness. For me, the challenge has always been, okay, how do people write? How do you do this thing? And you teach yourself. So when it comes to writing a novel or a children's book, I read the stupid book to Ty, my son, every night. The
Good Night
balloon one.
Moon?
Good Night Moon. And I'm like, this is dumb. And then I go to the Good Night Red Balloon, and Ty's like, I'm like, where's the balloon tie? And he's like, and I'm like, frick, he likes this.
Yeah.
What's good about this?
It's dumb. That book
It's
is
super
kinda
dumb. But Ty loves
that
it.
book.
So
I am not down with the kids' books.
I love the kids' books, but only good ones, not stupid ones.
I have no idea.
I probably have not read a kid's book since I was a child. So
Yeah.
Oh, you need kids.
No.
You're crazy.
I need a full-time job before even thinking about that.
Good point.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So what is the process like for writing? You mentioned that you have an academic book coming out next year. What was
Oh,
that?
yeah.
What was that? What is it
Yeah.
about, and what was the
Give us
process?
the plug.
It's just a chapter.
Well,
so, yeah.
okay.
So, just a chapter. So, I don't know. I'm also a realist. So, I went from religious studies into native studies, right? But I had been doing research with Metis studies for a long time. And coming into this has been like this fantastic, new, amazing thing, right? I couldn't jump. Because a lot of students they take their thesis and then write a book about it. And that takes up all of your time. You write a monograph. For me, it was just like, there will be 4 chapters from this stuff. If it can make it work, like it's kind of the same analysis throughout, but it's different review stuff. So now when I came here, Chris had asked me, it's like, could you...
Chris Anderson,
I know.
the Dean
of
Faculty
Native Studies.
at the
That's
University
right.
of Alberta. Okay, yeah.
Yes, that's right.
That
Chris
guy.
Anderson,
That guy.
amazing guy, hero of us, hero of mine, and hero of us.
Wait,
of
which
ours.
guy? No, I'm just
Chris
kidding.
Anderson. He's an Arcan from Saskatchewan. Jeez.
Oh, I've heard about those.
Yeah. Oh,
Those
jeez.
Arcans.
Those Arcans.
When did I say that one day I'll fight it? Remember in your office?
What'd you
I'll
say?
fight it Arcan.
Oh my god.
I can't remember what we were talking. Oh, we were talking about the wheel, the medicine wheel, the colors. What do they mean?
Oh, the sash. You were talking
No, we're
about just
talking about
colors
the
in the
sash.
sash.
That's it.
And then
And the
how do
white
Arcans
color.
came out?
What does the white mean? And I'm, no, it's the purity of the Métis Nation.
Oh my god.
Like,
It's
Jesus.
so funny.
Not really.
it's all up to interpretation.
Yes, it is. But black means the
Black means
dark
death.
times,
Yeah,
of
the
course.
dark
The dark times.
Yes. Because I'm doing religion, no one else is doing religion. So I'm kind of put in a really nice plum sweet spot. So I'm getting really cool student supervisor situation. So Janine LeBlanc and Tanya Ball, really cool students, which I can brag about. Be like, one's doing like Mi'kmaq, like Catholic women's devotions. Another one's doing like really cool, like devil stories
She's
and
the
family.
satanic one.
Yeah, I love it. You know, it's just like because religion is this like new religion and native studies is this really great new intersection that's not about culture, it's about epistemology, right?
Yeah.
So
I don't think I ever heard anything about it until like you came in.
yeah.
It was barely talked about when I got my degree here.
Yeah, because everyone's talking about culture. They're all talking about the medicine wheel and medicines and which is fine, which is really good, but we don't talk about the thought and the relationality of it. So native studies is anchoring us in this really great concept of relationality, which is so much better to then start talking about all these different topics, right? So it's been a really great liberating thing for me to be here. Chris asked me, could you talk about your work in religion, the stuff I've been doing for years and years around Marian devotional popular devotion. Yeah, so it's a really great chapter that I'm really happy. Sorry, no, it's not great. I'm happy about it. I'm really proud of it. And hopefully it'll amount to some inspiration in students. I don't know.
Inspiration. Religious studies.
I know.
Hilarious.
I do not want to convert anybody. It's the worst.
Good one.
Yeah, thank you.
Dad jokes.
Oh no, yeah, exactly.
Academic dad
Oh
joke.
shit, now I'm gonna think of a dad joke. Knock knock.
Who's there?
Interrupting cow.
A dropped in cow.
Moo interrupted.
That didn't work out as well.
It worked out for dad. Academic dad.
Community crown.
Okay, Dad.
It's so funny.
So, do you have any advice for new authors, new writers, new students, new scholars? I'm just thinking, as someone who, as you said, went back to school as a mature student, or came into writing later, maybe.
Definitely later. For me, it's always been, I've been interested in the same thing since 2002. Since I started school, but it was this long, winding way around coming back to it. So for me, the topic is what's really important. And then you get the research done, the writing done, right? If I had more time, I don't know, I feel like I've been shaken up a bit by your question about creative writing and stuff. Because over the reading break, all I did was I put one chapter to bed and I wrote another chapter. I'm constantly writing and editing, but I'm not doing anything beyond that. So maybe there's a trajectory there where it's like I learned how to write academically in a way that's proper and meaningful and critical and engaging towards doing more like creative stuff. I hope that I can lead that way to learn more. Right?
I'm always open to doing a podcast about bad Catholics.
Oh.
Oh.
Wow. I don't even
you
know
go.
what about.
Whole new
I
series.
love one podcast. I've never done a podcast before.
You should.
You are.
Can we get a Patreon and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
But I feel like I don't know anything about religious studies other than I really love one religious studies prof here at the U of A,
Which
and
one?
Glenn Farron.
Okay.
And I knew nothing about religious studies, but I just kept on taking his courses
Really?
because he was such an awesome prof.
Oh,
I would love to talk to bad Catholics and be like, tell me how you're a bad Catholic.
talk about
So-
mischief, bad Catholics.
We
and all
gotta
that.
trademark that.
Yeah.
Like, this
Well,
is
Paul
going-
was the first one to talk about bad Catholics.
Yeah.
so-
I presented at the Métis talks. I presented on Métis bad Catholics.
How did
And-
they feel about that?
Oh, the community loved it. They
Oh,
were just like,
good.
oh my god.
We're all
Yeah,
bad
yeah, exactly.
Catholics.
So then I unpacked what bad
right.
Catholics meant, and it was really fun. You know what Métis are. They're just like, did you guys hear about the script conference and the last person to talk to the script conference?
No,
No,
but Frank just
no.
kept on telling me that I needed to watch the stream of it, and then we had to go
Yeah.
out for coffee. And then Molly and Chelsea were throwing in their 2 cents every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I was, well, I haven't seen it, but okay,
I've only
Watch
seen
the last
Mia
thing.
present
The last thing?
one.
Watch the last one. It was this little lady from up north, this Kokum. Like, she said the most sexual innuendo
I
thing.
love it.
That was so amazing.
Yes.
And then everyone broke down laughing. Marilyn told it to me, and I was like, oh my God.
I love it.
Amazing.
So we're talking about getting content that's meaningful. This question of religion is meaningful to the Métis, right? But no one's been able to assess it properly because we always focus on institutions, which are riddled with issues of power, right? So to unpack that power and see where Métis agency sits in these dynamics is really good. That's what bad Catholics come from, right? It'd be great to do a podcast and like talk to Audrey Poitras, you know, and like talk to like everybody.
All the leaders of like
Everyone.
the BTD.
Oh no.
Like, how are you a bad Catholic?
And they'll be like, well, I am in this and this, and they'll talk about it.
Yeah.
They'll
Oh,
relate
it's a
to it.
fantastic. And I love that. For me, like, what I love about writing is because I don't know if I like writing. I love the ideas. I don't even know if I'm a good researcher even. Like, I'm like so happy to be working with you.
It's all Kayla. Kayla's feeding me information, and I'm just taking credit for
baby.
it.
See, but I'm a horrible
always
writer, but a great researcher. That's my shtick. Like,
Yeah.
I could not write to save my life. I don't know how I got a graduate degree or graduated, but I can research something like a bloodhound. If there's
Yeah.
something out there to find, I will find it. I
That
think
is
that's why Frank
amazing.
kept me employed for so long.
Yeah.
It
'Cause you
wasn't
saw
my,
that.
It wasn't my writing skills
Yeah.
or anything.
But then, so this is the point. Then, as Indigenous scholars, we should be working together more and more. This is the collaboration is our strength. For me, I'm not a good writer. I have a good editor. So I have I think I have fun ideas that are kind of sexy and stuff. Sexy ideas, weird Marian devotional cults that
Yeah.
you know, they're called the Army of Mary, stuff like that. So it's like, and then, but it's like editing is the fun part of this whole thing, right? So
Yeah, I like editing too, but I also like writing. But I have to write in a specific way.
Yeah.
With all my stupid jokes. That's what your book should be about, like sexy Métis jokes. Métis innuendos.
Can yours be the one that? That'd be awesome. Hopefully your family stories will come through that way and be like, here's a whole appendix on really inappropriate jokes, sex jokes.
Oh, the innuendos that we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's the best thing. It's our
like
lifeblood.
really inappropriate manners at a conference, walking across campus today.
Oh yeah, well we had to
As long
come
as it's
into
not
the back
oppressive,
door of the
right?
building. You have to have a joke about that.
Oh,
Or the building.
Inappropriate not to.
100%. Always. Always.
but writing is about using different social capital that you have, right? So this is my whole process. For me, writing has never been, this is what I guess the theme I'm pointing to, is that it's never been a lone wolf thing, ever.
Right.
Because I'm too relational for that. PhD killed me for loneliness, right? So for me, all of this writing is based on my social capital, what I've done. Like, so not that I'm doing on purpose for being like, so I'm positioning myself with this really important author, get on board. It's just because I was like affable and I talked about my ideas communicated them in a way that was memorable, and then people just like, oh, they think of you, and then you get on board. And so again, this is about relationality, right? It's just about like things will come back to you because you put things into it.
So are there any, because I know your research is very specific, and because you are working with religion, is there anything that you wouldn't ever talk about in like your academic papers? Do you give a little bit of leeway to the notion that maybe not everything's supposed to be found and not all stories are supposed to be shared?
Yeah.
Is there ever something that you probably wouldn't write about?
It would all depend on the circumstance, especially when we're talking about Indigenous research, which have to do with families and relationships. Some things don't need to come out, so you just write around them. It's fine, you know? I feel like sometimes we have this drive, this liberal drive. The truth is out there, so we have to slay it with lasers, dagger, or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just mashed in so many franchises into this analogy. Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
But sometimes the story comes to you and it just comes to you, you know?
Yeah.
And also, I'm not going to badger anyone for stories either. That's the relational way, right?
Yeah.
And it just feels right to me. Like, I hated this idea of get to the bottom of it. And I was like, well, okay. Can we go together then? Because the bottom is pretty lonely, you know?
I'm like having this vision of the bottom of academia right now. And
sludge.
it's literally, like
Sludge City.
Sludgy black pit with everybody looking down on you, laughing.
Yeah, exactly.
Or judging.
Oh, yeah.
Side eye where they're like, this idiot.
Yeah. So how do you do critique that's relational and engaging and constructive, right? Our faculties, I love the faculty because we're constantly thinking about that. Do we smash people with our critiques and our questions? Like, that's stupid. Why would you do that? You whisper on the side and you give them food and then you get an auntie to like, and then sometimes you have to lay down the law, you know? Like,
Those mean aunties coming out.
Panic today.
yeah. Oh, I feel guilt.
Yeah, I feel
In this
I have
food.
some guilty panic. Like, truth panic.
This energy's off.
It's baked with intentions.
Yeah, benefit.
Oh, God.
But I much prefer that, you know, being in a toxic environment of objectivist people's whatever's. I'm excited about writing right now. I'm excited about the future more than ever, which is really strange. I've been in school since 2002. How many years is that? Lots and lots of years,
Yeah.
right? For the research that we're doing together, where is this going to head? Digital storytelling, like this new idea. And what I'm most excited about is the collaborative aspect, because all of us are Métis, most of us in the circle. We all know what it means to give in order to get, you know? Usually it's about getting rather.
Yeah.
Which is so awful, right? I'm excited to see what prospects come from student engagement. You know, even just own this research. This is your research as much as mine. And to hope that collaboration happens, right? Because a lot of people, what happens is like, they just want it for themselves and they just want to hoard it. Hoard the knowledge, hoard the glory. You know, that makes me feel so disgusting and disgusted.
You got the icky feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like that's the norm in academia, right? Of like, that's my idea, and sometimes you can't help it, feel like that, but push that away. Just do it, right?
Do you have any advice for publishers that might be listening to this when working with Indigenous academics for producing their content? Or I shouldn't say producing their content, publishing their shit.
Yeah, no kidding.
Their awesome shit, not the bad kind of shit, but the good stuff.
I'm feeling a bit confused by how you lobbed this question. I kind of understand.
What are we talking about?
So you're talking about white people doing more stuff? I don't know. It's like, huh? Well, I don't know. I think for me, what matters is relationships, and it's always been about that. So that's where I feel like I've had a pretty good experience of academic publishing, because all of those sections were about relationships. Even the independent stuff that I did, I went to someone that I knew, you know? I didn't go to the big American or big European things, which is what my advisor was. This is what's funny, because my advisor is like a jet-setting, amazing lawyer, amazing woman, right? An amazing academic. And she's like, go international. Just go. That's what I did, go international. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, I was never, ever pulled there. For me, it was like, I was always trying to steer the ship back to Saskatchewan, which no one does. And I over jumped or whatever. But it's Treaty 6. It's all the same. It's all amazing.
Skipped on over one.
Yeah, I did. But I'm pretty happy here. You know, it's like
North Saskatchewan going upstream.
upstream. Yeah, I know. So it's like, yeah, I said it's upstream. But it's not so hard, you know. It's
Paddled your
like
canoe upstream and you hit Edmonton.
my York boat, you mean?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
There you
for
go.
Now I know
PA.
all about York boating.
You bet.
Yeah, I tried to take on a Métis academic comparing York boating to the buffalo hunt.
Oh, really?
It half worked. It half worked because I did a lot of like archival research. to
What were
go
they?
along with
What was
it.
their thesis? What was their thesis about that?
Well, I took on Chris's book, The Métis, and tried to prove that York boating was just as important as buffalo hunting.
Oh, from which angle? Like because of the
Like,
economic organization, like social organization.
Yeah, like a social organization.
Okay, that makes sense
aspect.
because they're
Yeah.
brigades, right?
Yeah.
And they're all based on
They have
family
like a
kinship.
captain. Yeah.
Kinship
But I
factors.
actually had to prove that.
Oh.
Like, so always do your research. And
Yes.
especially if it's going up against big academic individuals. Do 150%.
Chris isn't a historian though, so
No.
Yeah.
He really liked it, so I was all
that's good. Yeah.
He
Well,
didn't bring down the Métis hammer, so
Yeah.
that was good. Whatever that was like.
is that like Thor's hammer?
Yeah, but different.
But it's made of wood. It's made of like spruce wood or something.
Cased
like the
in
whipping
beads.
stick.
Kissed
Yeah,
in
it's like a
beads.
whipping stick.
Yeah, it's a whip, obviously.
Oh my God.
Bring down the whip.
I just remember branches being cut off. Trouble.
You did this
Oh my
to yourself.
God.
Go pick out your own
Really?
spruce thing or like whatever your own academic willow stick.
Your willow
Yeah,
whip.
Willow's the worst.
Like,
Willow's the
You
worst.
did this to yourself. No, he
Yeah.
was really nice about it. He liked it too. But it's one of those
Nice.
things that you definitely have to like, be accountable for
Yeah.
the stuff that you produce. That's
Yeah.
100%. Like if you're working with an Indigenous community or you are an Indigenous person that's publishing, like you have to be accountable
Yeah.
for the crap, the good and the bad crap that you put
Yeah.
out.
Especially so for non-indigenous people doing indigenous work, it's like be accountable to peoplehood of
Yeah.
who you're talking about, and it should be with, right?
Yeah.
There's so much material being produced that way. But for like for publishers, going back to your question about publishers, what would you guys think is like should publishers do to indigenize?
They need to go on a sweat. All of them. Sweat lodge. Go. That'd be so good.
Led by
I don't know.
some like
Ambrose.
Ambrose is good. Ambrose is good.
It's gonna be like some like
No, just someone who got a certificate in shamanism. You know, it's just like
Oh, like that
that
one
way.
story? Oh, with the bad sweat lodge.
no. Okay, so reeling it back in like a big old northern pike.
sweet.
So to answer your question,
Yeah.
I think publishers, because I know a lot of times there's like this pressure to really cave into what publishers want, changing names, like changing content to make it more viable for the masses in some cases, or making it more friendly. And I know like a lot of Indigenous people have said like, oh, I had to change the title because they didn't like the title.
Oh, really?
Or I had to like, we hear about excluding content in books because, it's not user friendly or like reader friendly. And I think that needs to really be like analyzed and taken like critically by like publishers, that Indigenous people, we know our knowledges, we own our knowledges, like we need to be taken seriously and listened to without having.
That's why I feel like publishers need more. There needs to be more sensitivity readers out there.
Yeah.
I don't even think that's an official thing yet, but it should be.
But it's also up to it's also like to support and affirm Indigenous authors to tell the publishers to respect that, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel it's like sort of like a settler response is just tromping through the woods. Sometimes it's like, oh shoot, I stepped on your house. I didn't know that was there. Like I don't know who this Vinnie Barbarino is. Editor.
Imagine
Oh,
being more
sorry.
like Paul Bunyan or something.
Hey, yeah,
I'm
exactly.
like, are you stepping on an ant?
I was thinking.
Sorry,
I was thinking.
Through the woods and stepping
Sorry.
on a house. I'm like, how tiny is your apple
Mushroom.
It's like,
Merfolk.
do you have a Zoolander
I was thinking
house?
about.
Like-
I was thinking about. What is it, Hilda?
This is a house for ants.
Zoolander. I was thinking about Hilda. That's what. You know that cartoon on Netflix?
No.
Hilda. It's like really awesome. Like really awesome.
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you would love it, especially. Would love
Really?
it.
Is it a cartoon?
It's a graphic novel made into a cartoon.
What?
Oh, sweet.
Fantastic.
That's right up my alley.
Super fantastic. And she's like really cool. It's like super independent little girl who lives in the woods with her mom alone. And there's all this, just a magical world out there. And then some of them are these elves who are like living in tiny houses and they're invisible. And for years they've been tromping over their property.
I gotta watch it.
Oh, it's super good. That's what I was talking about.
I'll take that as a sign.
Over.
Let's close it up. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Paul, for sitting with us for the last hour.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah.
Sounded so formal when you said that.
So,
I'm very professional.
should we?
Oh yeah, I guess you are.
Yeah.
I'm like, not only can I not write, but I'm not eloquent, like at all. Farmer from central Alberta. That's
why you got me.
Farmer, like.
That's what you got. Perfect, like Wade and Schuster.
We all bring a little bit of sass and spice to this podcast, so or else they wouldn't have picked us to run it. I don't know if they did. I think Tanya roped us into doing this. So
Someone picked
we
you?
were not handpicked to do this.
I handpicked you.
You did, yeah.
Pick. The best ones.
Thank you. And thank you for speaking with us today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, I guess until next time.
Yeah, until next time.
Bye.